My name is Jeff Hegan. I'm from the United States, live in Houston, Texas, and I'm self-employed. I sought to have a Birmingham hip resurfacing done in India. After looking at the alternatives, I felt like that technique, given the fact that it preserves as much natural bone as possible, was a vastly superior alternative than a total hip replacement. I began to research the options for a solution to my hip problem about 6 years ago. At that time, the Birmingham hip resurfacing technique wasn't available in the U.S. And so the question wasn't whether I could or couldn't have it done in the U.S., but where was the best place to have it done outside of the U.S. And after doing my research and connecting with a number of companies that are in the medical facilitation business, at the top of every list was Dr. Bose in Chennai. I ultimately chose to seek treatment at the Apollo Specialty Hospital in Chennai, primarily because that's where Dr. Bose does his work. I will say that I'm not a big fan of hospitals in general. I have many friends who are doctors and nurses and in the medical profession in the U.S., and they're pretty proud of what they do in the U.S. On the other hand, I read the newspapers and listen to the news every day about the lack of nursing care, about general mistakes made by medical staff and surgeons and so on and so forth. And I will say unequivocally that the care that I received at this hospital, although my expectations were high based on recommendations that I had read and people that have actually come over here to have procedures done, what I experienced exceeded my expectation. Dr. Bose is an interesting character. I had never met Dr. Bose, obviously, before my surgery. I had an opportunity to speak with him on the phone, which was really one of the prerequisites I had in choosing a surgeon, was so that he knew who I was on an individual level and what my expectation was from our lifestyle post-surgery. And I'm an active person, always have been. My hip has restricted my activity dramatically in the last 6 years. Dr. Bose assured me that he'd get me back into the lifestyle that I'd lived up until about 6 years ago. And I can say from the moment I met Dr. Bose, he's as warm and as genuine as any doctor that you're going to meet anywhere. I know that the U.S. leads, at least the perception is that the U.S. leads the world as it relates to medical technologies. I am originally from Boston, and of course Boston is known throughout the U.S. as having a phenomenal medical community. But I currently live in Houston, which also has a phenomenal medical community. But what's interesting is that just prior to my coming for my surgery, I saw a report by Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who at that time was asked to become President Obama's new Surgeon General. He declined that office, but he posted an interview on CNN in which he came to India and interviewed surgeons here and concluded that surgical care in India is world class. The hospital rooms are spacious. The room that I stayed in, as are all the rooms on this ward in this hospital, are private rooms with room for a travel companion or attendant. They have a little kitchen set up, your own private bathroom. I was pleasantly surprised at the accommodations.